Okay, here in Arizona, of course, we're here at America Fest, but if you watching FlashPoint Live back in October, you saw that we were at Dream City Church. What a great church. It was a great event. I want to introduce you to the pastors, Luke and Angel Barnett. Thanks, guys, for coming on FlashPoint.
It's great to be here.
Thanks for letting us use your facility. Now, I want to say right here, we have struggled to find churches to work with us that we want to be able to bring our events into. So when you finally, and I'm not saying you have to bring us in for free, we'll help cover the cost, but you guys opened up. Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for letting FlashPoint come. We had a great event. We're looking to do more in the future. It was a wonderful time. So as a pastor, Pastor Luke, I'll start with you. I want to know, I've watched your message. I knew your father back from from the 70s, but you specifically, you're preaching a strong message about getting involved in the nation, getting involved in your culture. Kind of bring us up to date on how things are going for you guys. Did you meet any resistance to that when you started standing up? Really?
Well, sure we did. Back in 2020, in the height of full masking going on, and also the George Floyd issue that happened. Right. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, they leased our facility out for a young conservative rally, and a couple of weeks before, he informed me that President Trump was coming.
Right.
And so I thought, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be interesting. And we had staff members, even on our staff, telling me that they're going to leave unless I cancel the event. So it told me a lot about some of the people we had on our staff. My dad didn't raise us to cancel and to run. So we just stood up and said, look, we're going to just be bold and strong and keep our commitments. And we did. And during that time, we lost several staff members. We have about 175 staff members, maybe about 10 staff members left during that time. But and then it was COVID, so we were at 50% of our attendance. So I'm thinking to myself, what's happening? Are we losing our church through this?
Sure.
But when it all came back, it was the opposite effect. People in our city who were conservative thinkers, but they weren't Christians. They saw us on the news all the time, and they said, we like what that pastor is doing. We like how that church is standing for truth. And they started coming to our church. And we've just exploded since that point. So I really do believe that it's really the opposite of what young pastors think.
Right.
They think they're going to lose their church if they stand strong on biblical issues. It's the opposite. And the people that you get in your church are capitalists, they're entrepreneurs, and they're people who can really make a difference. And, we want everyone to come to our church, but quite frankly, there are some people who will never darken the door of our church.
Right.
They've rejected what we believe in.
Sure.
So I think when you stand on biblical values, you get people who are not yet Christians, but they love what you stand for, and they come and they're your audience, and it's a great pond to fish in.
It is. Pastor Rob McCoy said his church grew 400%.
Yes.
Just because he was standing up. Of course, God brought them, obviously,
sure.
But by standing up, that really people want to know. Just show me a leader I can follow.
Yeah.
That's not going to waver from the Scripture.
It's so true.
So
right?
Thank you for standing up.
We have a little slogan that we kept saying over and over again. It's never wrong to do what's right. It's never wrong to do what's right. And we're not doing anything wrong. We're doing what's right.
That's right.
So let's put our shoulders back and stand tall and just enjoy this season because it's the right thing.
Amen. All right, Angel, tell me from your perspective, how was that season?
I think it's exciting. It was discovering truly who you are, and when the rubber meets the road, are we willing to not embrace fear, but to move forward with standing for the Bible, biblical values. And when culture was telling us what companies are essential and saying the church is not essential, I'd say eternity is essential.
That's right.
So we were going to push back and say they're not going to tell us we can't sing, that we cannot worship. They were getting too deep and it was going too far, and we realized there was a deeper agenda behind all this, and we were going to stay open.
Yeah, that's good. And it was happening really fast.
It was.
You look back and you go, wow, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
We had to kind of grab the reins real quick. All right, so when we were there in October, you weren't there because you were out on a hike with your daughter.
That's right.
And the story is a miracle in itself. I want you to quickly tell what happened on that hike.
Sure.
It's a miracle.
Well, in the beginning of 2020, all the shutdowns happened, and my daughter, Anna Lee, she always had this dream to do the Arizona Trail. The Arizona Trail is 800 miles long. It starts on the border of Arizona, Utah, and winds all the way down to the border of Mexico. It's 117,000 feet of elevation gain. You go through the Grand Canyon, back out of the Grand Canyon again. And so she said, "Yeah, I'm getting married next year. If I can't find a partner to do this with me, I'm doing it all by myself." And so I couldn't let my baby do that. So I said, I'll train hard all year and I'll do it, but we're going to do it for a great cause. And the cause was our work up in Colorado City on the border of Arizona and Utah. The infamous prophet Warren Jeffs built a whole city basically out of polygamy. And at one time, 14,000 people lived in that city. Now there's about 8,000. And the 65th wife of Warren Jeffs, her name is Brielle Decker. She escaped that compound. She made her way all the way down to our Phoenix Dream Center, and she saw what was going on there, the life change. And she said, "Can you do this up in Colorado City? I want to give you my house." We thought, "Your house? What do you mean?" Well, she was awarded, as the 65th wife of Warren Jeffs, the 27,000 square foot compound where all the wives lived and all the children lived. And so she couldn't afford the taxes on it, so we paid the taxes for it and we renovated the whole thing. Our friend Joyce Meyer put $1 million into that to help us renovate that project. And today it's being used to rescue young girls, 12, 13 years old, out of polygamy. So that was our cause. So in September of 2020, we set out from the border of Utah, Arizona, and we got 500 miles into the hike. And we're in the Superstition Mountains. We're coming down a very steep part of it, and she let her hands down on two big boulders, let her feet about 5 feet down. I'm watching all this. So then the moment I followed behind her and put my hand on that boulder, a 7,000-pound boulder, it moved out of the earth, and she's standing right below it. So my feet hit the ground, and immediately I just shoved her out of the way instinctively like any dad would do.
Sure.
And it caught me on my back, and it rode me down 20 feet.
Wow.
And it broke my femur, it broke my hip, it broke my left forearm, 3 of my ribs, almost cut a finger off. And it almost killed me. It hit every part of my body. It never caught to my head. It just kind of pushed my body down the hill. So I laid there for 3 hours, waiting for the helicopter to come airvac me out. And they airvac me out and took me to Scottsdale Osborne Trauma Center. Spent about 14 days in the hospital recovering. But that was in 2020. Well, I started to feel better after about a year. My bones started to grow back together again. So I started to get the itch. I said, I got to finish this thing. And by the way, my daughter actually went out 2 days after my accident. I said, people have committed $1 million for our ministry. We got to finish this thing. And
right.
Barnett's don't quit. So she went out with another partner and finished it in 2 weeks. And as a result of that happening, this whole thing went viral worldwide. And $2.5 million came in of support. Paid off all the buildings up there. They're all debt-free.
Wow.
Bought a food pantry up there. We feed 60% of the town every single week.
Isn't that amazing?
And so this past year, I got the itch again. I said, that's bothering me. I got to finish this thing. So I went out about a month and a half ago and finished the 300 miles. No effects on my body at all. Femur stronger than ever. Hip stronger than ever. And crossed the finish line. And I always say that I'm Angel's mule because she raised more money on my back
Shameless.
on the last 300 miles for Colorado
But
City.
it's a miracle you're standing here, that you're even alive
It
or
is.
not in a wheelchair. I
It
mean,
is.
because 7,000 boulder is a big
We know it's that much because some of our developers went out and they tried to bring it back with a helicopter. And the helicopter pilot said, you need a military-grade helicopter. It's too big.
Yeah.
So it was a massive boulder.
Praise God, you're okay. Well, that's great. All right, so let's pick up the story, Angel, with the fundraising effort for the house there. Now, you and I talked back in October about it because you told me to go watch a
Yes,
a documentary on it, which
Yes.
I did, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this guy and what happened. It was sad, tragic, scary, all of that, all wrapped into one. So I want to hear about what you guys are doing at the house now.
Well, this is a historic story that's been told for many years by many documentaries. The most recent one from Netflix, which we do not promote, but they have been deemed by the community the most accurate documentary that has been done lately. It's called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. And it just shares the devastation that was done to the community. So what we're able to do is, yes, we tell their story because it's the truth and it's the past, but we are paving a way for their future. And this is a resilient community. They have hopes and they have dreams, but they did not realize that they could have their own dreams and thoughts because systemically that was bred out of them.
That's right.
It's slave labor, it's child labor. You had children to work the fields, and it was a complete self-sustained community. If you were punished, you were traded to another family. So birth certificates, their identity was flip-flopped literally in the middle of the night. So what we're able to do is bring women and children into what used to be Warren Jeff's home. They don't see it that way anymore. They see it as a place of recovery and dreams being birthed again. So we are full with a waiting list. We address their educational benchmarks, the behavioral health counseling, the equine therapy, and then job and trade skill initiatives. In that community, they were only given one task to do. So a normal mom that could multitask, take care of a child from A to Z, was only the person who made sandwiches that day. She didn't know how to bathe or do different tasks. When you take away people's multitasking diversity, you paralyze them. So we start from the basics of life. What do you want to be? What have you dreamed about? And so we talk about the skill sets that we can implement that will ultimately end up in independence. Our dream would be that they could leave the community independent and be a part of any other city. But you know what? They're proud of their community. They're proud of their heritage because they love each other. And we want to be the wind in their sails. We don't want to be the people that come in there and try to save the day. We want to just breathe energy and wind and breath into their sails so that they know they're resilient. And religion was a part of the abuse. The difficulty in making sure that you don't push anything on them. The Holy Spirit has to go before us and deal with the hearts of people that were abused by religion. And he is doing that. People are finding that Jesus is love and that it was not abuse. And they're getting baptized, and some are joining chaplaincy. They're reading Joyce Meyer's book about battlefields of the mind, and they're being freed. So it is such an honor to serve, and that's all we do. We feed, we clothe, we educate, and we're there to serve without an agenda. And we've been able to prove that to the community, so much so that our directors are now a part of teaching in the school and doing volleyball coaching and a part of the civic issues and decisions that are being made in the community now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than just, I mean, that's a huge amount, what you just described. But Luke, you and I were talking just a minute ago about the fact that you had to change the whole city. The whole city had to change. There was, from the law enforcement to the way things were handled, there really had to be a transformation of the whole area.
Yeah. And we also launched a church there, by the way, which is thriving in that community because they needed a great church. There wasn't one church in the whole city when we arrived. Pretty amazing. But really, Angel, she's the one that really understands all the work that's been done with the sheriff's department, the political structure of the city. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Right. So, we can't just go up there and talk about just the Dream Center when you have a complete infrastructure that does not support civic issues. So you're correct. The law enforcement was corrupt. That is no longer the case. And why we are here talking about and fighting for things, politicians that will hold our values and protect people, it is so vital. People like Barry Goldwater Jr., people who can open up doors and have had a political career, have come alongside of me and got us in front of the current AG's office, the DPS, DHS. They are now understanding the marshal is from outside of the community. The church and the law is upstanding and are held to normal civic standards. And so we've been able to get grants by Motorola is running fiber so that they have communication up there. They were living in the dark ages. That is no longer the case. So education, businesses are moving into town. It is coming to the news that Colorado City and Hilldale, Utah are becoming the next Sedona. Now, the people of the community don't want that influx, but they want to be proud of economics coming back in and having independence. And that is happening because certain people are ringing the bell and saying, this is no longer the joke of our state. These are people who deserve to be heard and have a chance and be brought into our community issues, civic issues, and they are. And that's why it's so important who is in office. They will advocate for communities that have been forgotten, and we put blinders on, but those blinders are off.
Wow. All right, FlashPoint Army, all you guys watching, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to get involved. Tell them there's so much work. You've done an immense amount of work so far, but there's so much more to be done. Tell them how they can get involved. ShoreCreekDreamCenter.org is a place where you can see our updates and you could be communicated with through reaching out, and we could email you. There's a donation page, obviously. We have a lot of work to do. We have come mountains from where we found them 5 years ago. But we want to make sure people have the skills, the resources, job opportunities and trading. Single mothers with multiple children, sometimes up to 10 to 12, maybe 16 children. How do they get support? We need great daycare service up there with background and making sure that we are not putting child predators back in the position. There's many different things that we need to approach, but we're going to serve people. Women that are trapped, we're going to make sure that we are a place they can safely land, have education, behavioral health counseling, and start talking about the future. What do they want to become? And that takes resources. Our staff is incredible. Not everyone can go there and be a part physically, but the dollars are being utilized in a way that's translating to people's future of independence.
Yeah, and Angel, there's also, tell them about the missions opportunities as well.
We do have missions opportunities. So on that website, there's a mission house. The generosity of the churches of the nation are what is keeping this ministry alive, and we're so grateful for all of our friends. But they bring mission groups, up to 50 kids, and they can come and they can serve an adopt-a block. They can adopt a single mom's house that she doesn't know how to clean the yard or doesn't have the bandwidth to do so. And when you come in and show love through sweat equity, that translates to why are you here and why do you do this? And we get to talk about Jesus, and that's exciting, and that's how the wave starts. So there are mission trip opportunities.
All right,
as well.
so ShoreCreekDreamCenter.org. All right, you guys know what to do. Don't send it to me at FlashPoint. Send it to them and get it right there in the hand so we can see these lives change. Thank you guys for being on FlashPoint.